Once upon a time, in a kingdom far away, there lived a princess named Snow White. Snow White was known throughout the land for her beauty, skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. But more than her beauty, she was beloved for her kind heart and gentle spirit. Snow White lived in the castle with her stepmother, the queen, who was beautiful but wicked. Each day, the queen asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And each day the mirror answered, "You are the fairest, my queen." But as time went by and Snow White grew older, the magic mirror's answer changed. "Snow White is the fairest of them all," it declared. Upon hearing this, the queen's heart filled with envy and rage. She could not bear the thought of anyone, especially Snow White, being more beautiful than she. Fueled by her jealousy, she concocted a vicious plan. The very next day, the queen summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. As proof, she demanded he return with Snow White's heart. The huntsman was heartbroken by this order. Unable to go through with it, he warned Snow White of the queen's intentions and urged her to flee deep into the forest where she would be safe. Snow White ran through the dark and daunting forest, frightened and alone, until she stumbled upon a small, cozy cottage. She was so weary that she decided to take shelter there for the night. When she entered the cottage, she found it tiny and cluttered but strangely welcoming. Exhaustion overcame her, and she drifted into a deep sleep across 3 small, cozy beds. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs who worked deep in the mines. When they returned home that evening, they found Snow White asleep. Startled at first by the sight of a stranger, they were soon charmed by her gentle and gracious demeanor. Upon waking, Snow White recounted her tale and pleaded for a place to stay. The dwarfs took pity on her and agreed, on the condition that she would help with the house chores. Grateful and relieved, Snow White agreed. Meanwhile, with Snow White gone, the queen once again asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her horror, the mirror replied, "Snow White, beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarfs, is still the fairest of them all." Furious, the queen resolved to take matters into her hands. Disguised as an old peddler woman, she visited the dwarfs' cottage while the dwarfs were at work. She offered Snow White a beautiful poisoned apple. Innocent and unsuspecting, Snow White took a bite and instantly fell into a deep, enchanted sleep, appearing as if dead. When the dwarfs returned, they were devastated to find Snow White lifeless. They crafted a glass coffin and placed her inside surrounded by flowers, mourning her day and night. Time passed, and one day, a handsome prince who had heard tales of the beautiful maiden in the forest came across the dwarf's cottage. Struck by Snow White's beauty, he gently leaned down to kiss her cheek. That fateful kiss broke the enchanted spell, and Snow White awoke, much to the delight of the dwarfs. The prince and Snow White fell deeply in love, and were soon married in a ceremony filled with joy and laughter. As for the wicked queen, when she once again asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" the mirror replied, "Though you are fair, Snow White and her prince are way beyond compare." Realizing her defeat, the queen's power over the kingdom faded. Snow White returned to the castle as queen, leading with grace and kindness. The kingdom flourished under her reign, and Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after.